Hello and welcome to another episode of the Trash Talk Podcast. I'm going to have Smokey Rameriz from the Trash Talkers. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Here in Georgia, the weather has turned back hot once again. We had that break. I think I was beginning to break the last time we talked, and I was like, yeah, it's getting cooler, it's feeling great, but now we're back into the 90s and freedom units, so it's really hot again, and it's a little late in the year to be this hot, but maybe it'll end soon. How is the weather over in Germany?
In the beginning of the week, we actually had it quite cold. Like sub 20 for sure. I think somewhere like the mid 10s. And the last 2 days, I think we had over 20 degrees again. So it's warm again, but it's not necessarily hot. So it's actually quite pleasant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At the moment, it was a bit cold earlier in the week. I almost had to turn the heater on again, but not quite that cold. But it almost got there.
Yeah, I was going for a little while without AC, and now it's back on. It was a nice break, but now it's too hot to not have AC. I know you guys don't understand AC units, but we have to have them.
Yeah, I mean...
do you have AC?
We don't.
You don't,
no.
do you? Yeah.
I saw a map recently, and I don't know how up to date that was, but where about 90% of Americans have AC, and about 10% of Europeans.
Yeah, wow. That makes sense.
And it's like, that's quite a difference. Now, heat pumps are becoming more of a thing around here, and I don't know if they have reversible heat pumps or just one way, because a heat pump and an AC is the same thing. It just pumps the temperature the other way, right? So a heat pump pumps heat in, and AC pumps heat out. And so it's actually fairly simple to turn an AC into a heat pump and vice versa, and also like you can have a component in there that just like allows it to switch which direction the temperature flows. And so I wonder if the German heat pumps are mostly reversible or if those are just heat pumps.
I
don't know the answer. I know I've seen some basically some AC units outside of some buildings here and there, and I'm like, I noticed that they become more common, but I think those are probably mostly heat pumps, and I don't know if they also do AC.
Yeah, well, I know all of ours actually have both, of course, but I don't know. You would think so, and if not, there's probably just a slight add-on to turn it into either or. I
mean, yeah, it shouldn't be that hard to modify them, but I have heard that apparently oftentimes both ACs and heat pumps are sold just as one, because then they can also sell you the other or some other heating or cooling option on top of it.
Yeah.
And also, it's ever so slightly cheaper to produce them one way, but obviously that in itself will probably not be a justification, because the feature is quite useful. But yeah, speaking of uncomfortable temperatures, let's go to our headline topic. Let's talk about torture. How fun.
Absolutely.
I guess the main question that you were asking is, should we torture?
Yeah, I think that's the question. I was actually watching a little video, just a countdown of like the most torturous torture devices throughout history. And while watching that, I'm thinking, this question or this debate has been raging on for many years, and it really was at the height probably during the war on terrorism back in the early 2000s, early up until, that war probably lasted a decade or more, or whatever it was. Even if I don't even know if it's officially ended at this point in time, but it was a big topic of debate right there. That is torture ethical? Should we still be using torture? Because it does seem barbaric and archaic at this point in time, but does it work, for one? Like, do you actually get the information you want out of someone by torturing them? Is a question also.
So it says here that the war on terror, the main phase was from the 14th of September 2001 to the 30th of August 2021. And then it has a note that says, the war on terror was also officially declared over in May 2010 and again in May 2013.
Yeah.
Which,
that's the thing, like...
What wasn't there...
who knows when the ending...
Remember the mission accomplished banner?
Oh, yeah.
So, that was even earlier than that.
Yeah.
But
Saddam, was it Saddam that went down first, or was it Bin Laden? But one of them's gone, and we're like, okay, the war's over, right? We did it.
Bin Laden was recent, I think.
Yeah, I think Saddam was first.
But yeah, so anyways, torture, right? So yeah. I would say we shouldn't torture, and also torture doesn't work, right? So that's the two answers to the questions you asked, right? So torture is not necessarily an effective means of getting information, which I think is reason enough to not use it, right? If it's not reliable, then there are practical reasons not to use it, which I think are in some circles more persuasive than the ethical arguments, because saying that torture is bad feels pretty obvious, and then usually the moral question would be, like, is the intel we could get from this person sort of worth more morally than the moral cost of torture, right? So that's sort of the moral equivalence. But if you look at just the practical and say that you probably aren't going to get accurate information of torture anyways, then I think that entire weighing is somewhat irrelevant, right? There have been studies showing that torture isn't very effective. Also, of course, when you want someone to stop torturing you, you try to tell them whatever they want to hear, which is not necessarily going to be the truth, especially, and this is the kind of thing that always happens with these sort of discussions, when the person is innocent, right? Like, you think you got a terrorist, but you actually just got a random Arab off the street, right? Like, the Americans do stuff like that sometimes. I mean, not just unique to the Americans, but obviously, as we said, war terror, that's kind of like sort of the most famous scenario there. But so if it did work, I think it would be a slightly more complicated consideration, but I would still lean towards it being bad. Although there might be extenuating circumstances where that could then be justified if there was like an acute danger, right? Like there was like an ongoing terrorist plot and you got one of the co-conspirators and you're trying to actively save lives. I can kind of see why you might justify torture in that moment. Again, if it actually worked, which, given that it doesn't tend to, I think kind of removes most of the moral complexity from the question, because it's just like, no, you shouldn't torture because there is no benefit, and the cost is obviously bad. I mean, cost in the moral negatives are quite strong, and there's really nothing to be gained, so why do it?
Well, I think a lot of times the torturers already have a set answer that they want. They've already made up their minds before they start the torture, that this is what I want this person to say, and I just want them to admit it. You think about like the Salem witchcraft trials, I forgot his name, but one of the guys was put under blocks. They put the wood over him. They had him lay down and put the wood over him and just kept piling blocks or stones on top of him over and over until the guy was almost dying and he refused to admit it. Like, if you wanted the truth, that may have been the truth. He's saying, I'm not a witch. And now at this point in time, we're looking back like, yeah, he was telling the truth. Yeah. Because is it even possible to do witchcraft? I mean, but they were not accepting that for an answer.
I guess there's sort of two ways that happens, right? You have the torture trying to get a confession, right? Police used to do that as well. They are no longer allowed to do that, although they certainly still sometimes get very close. With like, throwing someone in a holding cell without a blanket when it's really cold and stuff like that. So like they do still. There was a Supreme Court case about that, I think, not too long. I think it went up to the Supreme Court where they were like, qualified immunity, right, is always a problem. And so there was a case that was where the police had pretty much done the same thing, but they said that it was bad, therefore qualified immunity shouldn't apply, except that this time there was like a couple of days fewer that the person was in there. So technically the facts are different. Because qualified immunity is a stupid concept that's way too broadly applied. Not the point. Right, so to get a confession, just for someone to say, like, yes, I'm guilty, obviously, that, as you said, right, it's just like, the torture is going to end when the person admits to it. Whether they actually did it or not, right, that's obviously entirely useless. The other situation, and I think that's probably the one more applicable in the war on terror scenario, is when they're trying to get names and locations, right? They're trying to, like, who are you working with? where is your base, where are you planning to strike, when are you planning to strike, right? They might still go into it with a preconceived notion that the person couldn't possibly be innocent, therefore still torturing them until they get an answer, but they don't know what exactly the answer is going to be. They have maybe an idea of what kind of information they might be able to get, but they don't know the exact answer, which I think is a bit more complicated, because then it doesn't quite go as easily as like, oh yeah, just once you admit it, we stop torturing you, because then it's like, well, once you give us a name of someone you're working with, then we'll stop torturing you. And it's like, that, by the way, is an easy way to get more innocent people involved, right? If they were like, hey, we want a name, and you're innocent, and the only way they're going to stop is if you give them someone, there are going to be people that are just going to name someone, and then that person might get tortured as well, which, that's great. Which, then again, that reminds me of McCarthyism again, right? During the Red Scare. Not torture necessarily in that case, but just like the whole, like, oh, we know you're a communist, and the only thing you can do to get to stay out of jail is to actually give us the names of some other communists.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Same.
It makes me wonder how many countries are still using torture as an official method. Like, is it even legal in most countries? I mean, obviously they were using it in the early 2000s in the War on Terror, but are they still using it now? Is the question.
First of all, on the is it legal front, the answer is no if it's a prisoner of war, because then it's against the Geneva Convention to torture prisoners of war, so that is just categorically illegal. If it's your own people, actually, there's no international law providing against it, I think. So then it might in some cases be legal. History, abolition and continued use, that sounds... F as a public opinion, probation prevention, okay. Torture remained legal in Europe in the 17th century, but it was... Okay, yeah. Let's see. Do we have a map somewhere? Wouldn't that be convenient? Okay, parties to the convention... Oh, it might not have been the Geneva Convention, it might have been a separate thing. There's a convention against torture and other cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment, which is an international human rights treaty under the review of the United Nations that aims to prevent torture and other acts of cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment around the world. So I guess that's just a blanket ban on torture, and parties... Okay. So the countries in green are party to the treaty. The ones in yellow signed it? I don't know what that specifically means in this case. That seems to be India and Bangladesh, I think. Oh no, wait, is that just India? Actually, yeah, no, I think Bangladesh is the green part below. Yeah, so that's just India in yellow. I don't know what that means that have signed it but are not party to it. I don't know what that means. And others in grey. So as you can see, that is most countries. And also, it's worth noting that Western Sahara is not internationally recognized, so that is administered by Morocco for the most part, who are in green. There's some islands here that haven't signed, but that happens sometimes where like international treaties are not signed by like some of the smaller island states, because they're smaller island states that no one really cares about. So most major countries have it here, though. You see, I think that's Iran that hasn't signed it. North Korea hadn't signed it. That should be Papua New Guinea. Okay, there are some African countries here that I honestly can't identify just on a map. But yeah, no, most countries have signed that particular treaty. It seems to be like...
And when did you say...
All of Europe. The Convention Against Torture, I mean, when it's probably... was drafted in the... Okay, signed 4th of February in 1985, although it is possible that some countries would have signed on it later. But 85.
So when they were actually debating this in the 2000s, they would have been breaking that. But I'm wondering if Iran was not part of it. Is that how they got around it? Like saying, well, we're doing this in Iran. So
I mean, were they mostly doing it in Guantanamo Bay?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think all of them were in Guantanamo. I mean, they were still questioning people on the ground in Iran when looking for the terrorists. But I'm sure, I think that was a big debate, now that you mention it, is what was going on at Guantanamo Bay. But is that considered outside of the legislation of America?
I mean, that would have been outside of the US. I don't recall. It's one of those countries in Central America, right? Where that is actually. But yeah, it prohibits torture and requires parties. The Article 2 prohibits torture and requires parties to take effective measures to prevent it in any territory under their jurisdiction. So prohibit torture, and if it happens in your jurisdiction, you should do something about it. Okay, let's see.
Yeah.
Guantanamo.
So you could get away with it by being off of American soil.
Yeah, it's Guantanamo Bay Naval Base. I mean, it's definitely under their jurisdiction, I would say. Naval Station Guantanamo Bay. I mean, it's in Cuba. That's the one I was looking for. Which is also green on this map, though. So, like, whoever had jurisdiction there should have probably, like, stopped that from happening. Oh! I actually have ratification years by country. United States of America, 21st of October, 1994, with specific reservations detailed here. Excuse me. Okay, U.S. made 2 reservations in connection with its ratification. Okay. Does it specify further? Understanding. The U.S. has announced certain interpretive understandings. Declaration to you clear that the provision of Articles 1 through 16 of the Convention are not self-executing. Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they violated it. I don't know what exactly the specific reservations when they ratified it mean.
This is on February 7th, 2002, permission to torture was in effect granted when President Bush issued an executive order entitled Humane Treatment of Taliban and Al-Qaeda Detainees, in which he concluded, based on the OLC's advice, that none of the provisions of the Geneva apply to our conflict with Al-Qaeda. So I guess they just basically went outside of the treaty. They just said, hey, we're going to do it anyway.
Yeah. So, wait, what was it? United States? Signed 18th of April, ratified 12th of October. Okay. Signed 18th of April 1988, ratified 21st of October 1994. But yeah, so anyways, the point is, either way, they shouldn't have done that. I mean, obviously.
Yeah.
And that is that. Yeah, I can.
Dude, it's
not sortable by date, sadly, so I couldn't tell you in which order the country signed without having to manually look that up. But yeah, I mean, it's basically like all the countries. Oh wait, Cuba, right? I want to look at Cuba. They signed on the 27th of January 1986 and ratified it on the 17th of May 1995. So yeah, no, there's like in 2000, it's just absolutely no justification for torture under international law. In Cuba by American forces. The Americans probably shouldn't have done it, even if it wasn't territory of a country that didn't ratify it, because you don't just sign that you prevent torture on your territory. You also, I think, agree not to do torture just in general, no matter whose territory you're on. I think that is, but again, just from like a quick Wikipedia search, I haven't like looked into the topic too deeply before.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we move on, though, some of these torture devices used throughout history are freaking ingenious and amazing and very sadistic. Have you ever heard of the rat torture?
What? Rat torture? As in?
Yeah.
As in?
So what they would do is, they would take a bucket and put it over your stomach, sometimes your face. They could use like a cage where they would put it over your face and there's rats in there. and they would coax the rats by using fire or whatever, heating up the bucket or cage that they're in, to where the rats are going crazy and trying to find a way out. They can't gnaw through the metal bucket, so they start going through the skin to get out. So they literally start eating through the body. This is pretty crazy. Dude,
don't tell Hollywood about that one.
Oh yeah, he would freak out. I think they actually used that in a movie. I think it was one of the Fast and the Furiouses or something like that. It might have been where they actually used that. Anyway, the thumb screw, that's an old classic. What's the fork one? What did they call that? Where is it at? It's got to be on this list. The Heretic's fork. What they would do is take like a fork with like prongs on each end, and it would, you'd have prongs facing up and prongs facing down like that. And they would put it between your chin and your chest and strap it on there so it wouldn't come off. And you had to hold your head up like this. As soon as your neck got tired or whatever, you got a cramp or whatever, you try to move down, it's digging into your skin and your chest. It's pretty crazy too.
Yeah, I think generally those kinds of methods where like nothing happens to you as long as you hold still, like those are always
exactly.
In some ways they're like almost particularly cruel because it's not just painful, but it's also like a psychological element where it's like you can prevent the pain, but as soon as you get tired, it'll start hurting.
Yeah. And they use things like where you would think to yourself, oh, I could get through that easily, like Chinese water torture. You just strip the drops of water onto your forehead. But like, yeah, for the first hour, 2 hours, you're fine unless there's water dripping on your forehead. After 24 hours of that, it feels like a sledgehammer is just bashing you in the skull with every drip. And people go insane, long before they die from other, muscle cramps or, whatever it is. Sometimes even the throat closes up from the screaming and, stuff like that.
Yeah, I do think those methods I always found interesting, though, where you're not really physically harming the person all that much, but you're still, like, inducing a lot of pain or like, terror or whatever. And so I found those interesting because the other problem with torture methods, besides the fact that the information you get oftentimes isn't reliable, is that you have to be careful not to kill the person. Suddenly, if you have a method that doesn't really risk directly killing the person, it's a lot more effective in that sense. Now, again, you're probably still not going to get good information from it, but at the very least, you can reasonably expect that that at least you don't accidentally kill someone.
The craziest one that the craziest one that I saw was actually tickle torture. This was an actual method that they used. They would tie the people down, have their feet exposed, and pour salt water on the people's feet and let a goat lick the feet. Which is, you have so many nerve endings on your feet. It's going to be very ticklish and it's going to drive you crazy over a period of time. At first, it's you're laughing. They said that people would actually die from laughing. Just from laughing so much from having this tickle torture. Like you would laugh until your body just couldn't take it anymore.
I will say, at least when we're talking about historical accounts, I would always be very careful with those sort of things. Like they were like, oh yeah, they died from laughter. It's like, they might have been laughing and they might have died. I'm not sure if they died because they were laughing, right? Like, just gotta
may be sensationalized.
A little bit careful about the accounts there. Obviously, sensationalization is a big thing. Apparently, in the Renaissance era, they were actually like there was this whole thing where there was this fascination with like medieval torture methods, and that's when the Iron Maiden was invented as a museum piece, basically. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's not a real torture device, but I think the Victorians or whatever, like they were like so obsessed with like historical oddities and stuff that they were like they just made shit up, which I always find kind of interesting. It's also, I think, good evidence of how effective misinformation can be, right? Where like there are still people today that believe the Iron Maiden was genuinely used as a torture device.
Oh yeah,
just because someone made it up like way back when.
Oh yeah, I mean, for most of my life, I thought Iron Maiden was a real thing. I remember watching Bill and Ted, and apparently, the people that made that movie was made in the late '80s, and people thought that was a real thing because when they traveled back through time to the medieval era, King was going to put them in the Iron Maiden to torture them.
Yeah, I don't think that movie was particularly historically accurate, just in general, though.
But it is hilarious.
Yeah.
It may not be completely accurate, especially the Billy the Kid parts, because, yeah, it turns out Billy the Kid was nothing like people came to think that he was.
Yeah, I think generally Bill and Ted used like sort of a more pop history kind of approach rather than an actual historically accurate one. And a lot of media does that, right? So it's not unique to them. But
oh yeah,
I don't think people go to that movie for historical accuracy. I don't think that's the top priority.
Dude, I love those movies though. They're so good. Like all three of them.
They made a new one recently, right? I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah. I forgot the.
I've seen the original too, but
yeah, the original two were so good. Even the third one, you know how people like hate on anything that gets a sequel or whatever years down the line, but I think it was a great movie. It was, what was it called?
Bill and Ted Face the Music.
Face the Music, yes. I don't know, great movie, man.
Yeah, 2020. I've only seen the first two. I should probably watch that at some point.
Yeah.
A possible fourth film.
Oh, really good.
Wait, what?
Huh?
There's a possible. It lists under list of films a possible fourth film.
Really? That would be awesome. Because I love that series. I would imagine it would just be the kids this time, though.
Yeah, I think we finished with the Alex and Keanu Bill and Ted story. I think it's done, but if people were interested in a Brilly and Thea continuation, I think it would be cool. Yeah, that was the quote.
Yeah, so, that makes sense, yeah. Hey, I'd watch it. I love those. I mean, that's kind of what part 3 was all about. They were just basically handing the reins over to the kids.
Seems like a reasonable direction to go, because, you know, they've gotten older, right? I think if... And I mean, again, I haven't seen the movie, but if they just play the characters like they were in like 89 and 91, like 30 years later, probably wouldn't work that well.
Yeah, that's why it was a great take on it, because, you know, they weren't trying to play the exact same characters. They're like, hey, we're old now, you know, like times have changed. So I don't know, whoever writes those movies. I think it might be Alex Winter that actually writes the movies. He's brilliant.
Original work, owners, years, comics, films. I would have to look at the individual movies, I think. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, written by Chris Matheson and Ed Solomon.
Oh, really? Huh.
Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, written screenplay by Chris Matheson and Ed Solomon, based on characters by Chris Matheson and Ed Solomon. Right, great. They have 2 separate writing credits. Huh. One based on the characters from the original movie, and then the actual writing credit for the screenplay, despite the fact that they're the same people writing it. And then the same 2 guys as well for for the third one, and again with the based on characters by credit, which I find silly. I find it a little bit silly when it's based on characters by the same people that already wrote the screenplay. It's like,
yeah.
Why do you need?
I thought there was a story about Alex Winter having some big hand in making the movie. I don't suppose he directed it, but I don't know.
Let's see. Directed by Stephen Herrick, produced by starring. Yeah, of course, it's a starring credit. Yeah, I don't see on the original. I don't see any. Yeah, no, I don't see any other credits for him right offhand.
Yeah. Huh. Well, it says, I mean, under his Wikipedia, it says American actor and filmmaker.
I mean, it's very possible he had other roles in film, just not in those films.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I think we probably moved a little bit off our main topic. How about we move on to our
Definitely.
facts of the week?
Oh, yeah. Oh, let me find mine. There it is.
Well, it's your
You
turn.
ready? This is the first recipe is over 4,000 years old. The first recorded recipe is over 4,000 years old, dating back to ancient Samaria. And the world's oldest recorded recipe is for a hearty beer. Found on a clay tablet, the recipe outlines the process of brewing the beer using ingredients such as barley, honey, and emmer wheat. So they actually found a recipe for beer that was over 4,000 years old.
Yeah, I mean, it's not too surprising. I knew the Egyptians also made beer, so and I mean, the culture obviously is often seen as one single culture. Obviously, that itself exists for over 1,000 years. So I don't know when exactly that was been the case, but yeah, I knew that beer was pretty old. So that's not too shocking. I didn't know that was literally the oldest surviving recipe. Was necessarily for beer, but again, it's also not that shocking, especially because you have to consider that fresh water obviously was a bit sketchier back then as well, because you don't exactly just have tap water, right? You could have had all sorts of parasites in there, so alcohol is actually quite good as a disinfectant. So, I mean, beer is not that alcoholic. I don't know exactly, but yeah, no, that's part of the reasons why alcoholic drinks were more popular in the past.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and if I told you that the oldest recipe ever known to man was found, what would you automatically assume that it would be? Because I would think bread.
That's actually a good question, because, I mean, it also depends where, right? Because bread obviously would be something that's up there. Because what did people eat back in the day? And right, if you look at, like, meat and berries, like, yeah, meat, you cook it, right? Like, it's just, you put it over fire. I don't know what instructions to give you. So I guess bread would sort of be the most complex thing that I would associate with the past. But then again, bread and beer are obviously closely related. They contain all the same nutrients.
Yeah. One probably came from making the other.
Yeah, that is actually
very
possible.
Put your wheat and barley in the water and leave it too long and it ferments, and you're like, wow, let's taste that. Tastes like trash, but hey, I feel good after drinking it.
Yeah. I mean, it's wild, right? Like, they just, in general, how, like, those sort of things came to be. Like, how does someone come up with some of these ideas, right? What was the question? Like, who first thought to milk a cow, right? Like, huh? I mean, I guess, I guess that the fact that the babies are drinking from there maybe gives some idea. And then also, you have to consider that humans by nature are lactose intolerant, right? Eventually someone had a mutation that allowed them to process lactose, and then that spread because it was advantageous, because I guess people were already drinking milk before they could properly process it. So I don't know, like, that it's wild, right?
It is, yeah. I mean, trying it is one thing, yeah, but and it makes me wonder if, of course, you're lactose intolerant, but someone kept going back and doing it over and over again until finally they could take it. Well, someone didn't give up.
It's not even that they could take it, right? It's that eventually someone had a kid that could take it, right? So it's like, they must have, like, drank milk for generations until finally they found someone who could actually stomach it, right? It's like, I don't know, like, that's weird. But humans, man, I don't know.
Persistent.
My fact of the week is maybe, I mean, it's also historical, I guess, it's also a history fact, and that is that the Battle of Hastings, you might have heard of it, did in fact not take place in Hastings, but, get this, in battle.
in the city of Battle?
I mean, it's a town of Battle, and so the Battle of Hastings took place near Hastings, and to be more historically accurate, the town was known as Haile Saltede. I have no idea what language it even would be. I mean, it would have been in the English territory, so probably like Haile Saltede. I don't know, some like Saxon or whatever. Which is today known as Battle. Presumably because the Battle of Hastings was there, so it's not as spicy of a fact, but yeah, the town of Battle grew around an abbey, which was constructed. Yeah, so Battle is there today, and I actually doesn't say explicitly that it was named after the Battle of Hastings, but given... Oh, no, there it is. And it's named after the Battle of Hastings, yeah, so it's named after the battle, so it is not as silly as it sounds at first, but people will suddenly say, like, oh, the Battle of Hastings wasn't in battle. In Hastings, it was in battle. Because it was near Hastings, and the town that is there now is called Battle, because, of course.
Flip-flop the statement there.
So that was my fact of the week, which leads us to the halftime show. We're doing Hurdle Decades once again. We're starting with the 50s. This is probably all you, but let's see. That sure sounds like a 50s or 60s song.
I know that. Yeah. I'm gonna tell you what you're gonna do. Bop, 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 bop. You're gonna give my love to you. Bop, 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 bop. What is that? Play a little more. Let me make sure that's it.
Well, I mean, we can try it if you have an idea of what it is called or who the artist is.
What was that? Wasn't it like My Love's Not Gonna Fade Away? Something like that.
Not Fade Away by the Crickets?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
That was correct!
Oh, wow. Dang. My next guess was Summertime Blues. I think we talked about that last month or whatever, that all these songs sound like Summertime Blues.
You might
it's
have.
like they found a good riff.
I feel like that's the thing that happens a lot, though, where like a lot of songs sound very similar from the same time period, because that's just what the style of the time was.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we got it on the first try. Well, you guessed it, and then I pieced together what the title might be from what you told me.
Yeah.
1960s.
Alright. Oh. I can't think of it, but I know that one also.
Oh, wow. It almost sounded even older to me, but then the 60s. That sound almost like...
It does
like
sound
swing,
like 60s.
Sort of like a 20s kind of... I don't know, that's what I got from that, but... Okay, if you can't place it right now, then let's listen to more.
Dang, well, that was in a movie. Was it in Back to the Future?
I mean,
it was in some movie that was based on the 50s or 60s. Yeah,
it is possible.
I guess it would have to be the 60s if this is in the 60s.
Yeah.
But it does sound like the 50s.
I was trying to think. When exactly? I know it's 2015 for Back to the Future 2, but when was Back to the Future? When did that take place? The past part of that movie.
55.
Yeah, so it would be a bit early then.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was gonna say, I don't think it's the 60s, because doesn't he sing Johnny Be Good? And like it was like a song that no one had heard of before.
Mm-hmm.
So that
Fat Domino.
That vaguely places it to before then.
It may have been American Graffiti.
Well, in that case, I don't really have a reference for that. Yeah, but I guess let's listen to more, unless you have an idea of what it could possibly be.
Not yet. Let's hear some more. I need to hear some words. I know the song, but I need some words.
Somewhere.
Oh, play a little more. Hold on. I'm gonna get this.
I think he said somewhere. Did he say that?
Yeah, somewhere.
Wait, did I? Oh, I missed a letter. I was like, why is there a gap in the word? Yeah, I missed that. It's not perchance somewhere, my love. By Ray Conniff. It's Lara's theme from Dr. Trivago. That would be a movie reference.
Yeah. I don't think it's either one of those.
I mean, the other one doesn't sound like it would have been it. Also, it doesn't actually contain the word somewhere. I'm just that guy and guess this one just for the heck of it, but if you want to listen to more, we'll automatically get another skip out of this anyway, so yeah.
Yeah.
Somewhere beyond the sea.
Beyond the sea. That's it. Beyond the sea. Yes. I think that's the title of it. Somewhere
Beyond the Sea,
beyond...
La Mer by Bobby Darin.
Bobby Darin, that's it.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
1970s. Sounds vaguely familiar.
R&B. Yeah. I don't know it right offhand.
I swear I've heard this before.
It does sound familiar. It's that 70s R&B, though. It could be 85.
Yeah, it's going to be a thing where, like, at some point I'm going to press skip and I'm like, you know what? Actually, never mind. I've never heard this in my life.
Yeah.
Although normally that happens after the first skip where you're like, oh, I think I know this. And it's like, never mind. I don't know this at all.
Well,
I mean, I have no hope of getting this unless it actually gets going at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Stayed in bed all morning just to...
No, I don't think I know this one.
And it's not the Pointer Sisters, is it?
If it is, then it is Fire. It's the only Pointer Sisters song that we have in the 70s.
Oh, okay. It just sounds like them, but I don't know Fire, so I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, we can try. There's no cost in trying besides it costing us a guess, which we're not like we have a better guess. Nope.
Stayed in bed all morning just to pass the time. There's something wrong here, there can be.
No, I don't have this one.
I mean, I can try some words, but I doubt it's gonna be anything useful there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's nothing. I got nothing.
Yeah, me either. What do we got?
It's Too Late by Carole King.
Ah, Carole King. I know of Carole King. Don't know a lot about him, though. Or her.
1980s. It does sound like the 80s, but I can't place it.
Yeah, I know this song, though. Play some more.
Feels like you know them all.
I need a little more. I need a voice. Sounds like the Eagles.
You think?
For some reason, something's telling me it's not. But it does sound like some Don Henley and Joe Walsh type stuff.
So, literally no Eagles in here.
Really?
Really? I mean, this might be one of those songs where, like, the 60s also doesn't have any Beatles because of, like, legal reasons, so it's very possible that that's why they don't have Eagles in here.
Oh, that makes sense. You know, we've covered the Eagles like once, and it got blocked. It was copyright stricken. Yeah, they copyright the hell out of their stuff. So yeah, that's probably it. They're not gonna have any Eagles because of that.
Yeah,
they do not like people using their music.
Yeah, same. Like I've had a Beatles song as a song of the week once, and yeah, no, just don't.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I had an Eagle song once as well. Maybe that got blocked as well. I don't remember that well enough. I just remember to never use Beatles songs again.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the only artist where I've had a lot of issues with it because they get consistently blocked and they have a lot of good songs. So they come up sometimes.
King Crimson is another one. We've tried
someone
2 or
who,
3 times.
Yeah, someone who...
Oh, yeah.
I thought for a second
this,
you were like someone who sounds like this.
No. I guess we need some more.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. Yeah. It doesn't sound.
I know that, but I can't place what the voice sounds like. Dang it, I need some voice. We're not gonna get it, are we?
I don't think so.
No. Dang it, I feel like I would know this if I could hear the voice, but I don't get any. Barbara
Woman
Streisand.
in Love by Barbara Streisand.
Yep.
Yeah, let's go to the 90s then. Doesn't sound like my kind of music.
No, this is hip hop DJ music right here. Hold on, I know this. Play a little more real quick.
A little more, okay.
Yeah. Let's put your hands together, right? Try that. Put your hands together.
Put Your Hands Together by D-Mob.
D-Mob, that's it.
Yep. That is indeed it. Damn, that's the third one you've gotten today. Let's see, 2000s. That barely started.
Yeah, give me a little more. Oh, hell.
I suspect it might be
About to get another
one.
Yeah, that's that song with Alexandra Burke. Yeah.
Bad Boys.
Yeah, Bad Boys.
Wait, like the one from the movie? Bad Boys? Bad Boys, what you gonna do when they come for you?
No.
I was gonna say, because that, I was like, that doesn't sound like... Yeah, that was correct, though. Which, I think makes 4 now.
It might have actually been used in the movies like Bad Boy 2 or something like that, but I don't think... Yeah, maybe not. It's just Alexandra singing about bad boys, and she likes bad boys.
Which then finally brings us to the 2010s.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know if I hope so that one, but let's see. Actually, this could have been a radio hit that I might have heard, but if I know it is the other question.
Nothing right now. Sounds like one of those TikTok songs.
Okay, I'm not particularly familiar with TikTok. I'm assuming you're talking about TikTok, the video platform, and not TikTok, the Cash Out song.
No. You know, like
because that's what I would have recognized. You know.
You would know that one. But no, you know, TikTok made songs popular, and even some songs popular again that wouldn't have been, except for they were being used in TikTok videos.
Let's listen to more of it, I guess. But this does give me like a very like late 2000s, early 2010s kind of vibe. There was like a lot of music that sounded like sort of like this. I would say.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't place this particular one, which is not very helpful. Then, I'm assuming you got nothing either.
No, not right offhand. Oh,
there was
about
like
to get some voice.
one note, and not even that really. After that,
Yeah.
Pause, switch up, whatever, like a drop, I guess.
No, nothing.
Well, I mean, I guess we now know that the whole like Dum 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 thing was just an intro, so maybe if we actually hear the song proper, we'll get some idea.
Yeah.
You can be my guiding light.
Well, I've definitely heard this before, but I don't know what it's called, nor do I know the artist.
Yeah.
If I had to have a guess, I would say maybe it's called Guiding Light.
Guiding Light.
Because she said that just
Dang
then,
it.
right? Like, that's the only thing that I could think of. Guiding Light, yeah, no, that would have been too convenient.
Dang it, I feel like I have heard this before, but I can't think of any of the words.
That's what I'm saying, right?
offhand.
Like, I'm pretty sure this is one that I've heard on the radio before, but also, having heard a song on the radio does not mean that I know the title or the artist.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I guess we lost on this one.
The Ocean by Mike Perry, Sweden, featuring Shy Martin.
Yeah.
None
I've
of this means
definitely heard
anything to me. I mean, I'm familiar with the ocean as a concept, but, like, you know.
What is this ocean thing you're talking about?
I don't know, never been. So, yeah, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s. We had 7. You got 4 of them, which is more than half.
Oh, sweet. Trying to see, what year did that come out? Let's see.
What, the ocean?
Yeah.
An ocean is a major body of salt water on Earth.
2016.
Okay, that's later than I would have thought, but fair enough.
Yeah. It felt like more of a 2020, 2022 song.
Really? I thought
that's what I was thinking.
I was thinking more like 2012, sort of.
Yeah. It's just I heard the whole really soft whisper singing thing became really big at the late 2010s.
The Ocean is a 1973 Led Zeppelin song, so you know there's that. It's also a 2015 Steve Angelo song, a 2007 Against Me. What? The Ocean Against Me. Oh, that's in parentheses, I guess. No, that's a band song, and the 2016 Mike Perry song. There's also a ton of songs called Ocean or Oceans.
Oh yeah, Billy Ocean.
Yes, songs and artists, but which I guess brings us to our second topic. Will you press the button? Where we ask the question, will you press the button? In this case, if you press the button, you wouldn't have to work out. I think in this case it would be 2 words. To have a perfect shape, but only you could see it.
Well, the question is, what do the other people see?
That's what I was wondering. I mean, I guess you as you are right now?
I don't know. How much enjoyment do you get out of looking at yourself, though? Like, really, when someone works out a lot, you know, other than just to be strong for some reason, but when someone works out a lot, like bodybuilders, they're doing it because they want other people to see the work they put into their body.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends, right? Like, do we also get all of the health benefits associated with being in great shape, right? Because then maybe this actually does make some degree of sense.
Yeah.
I guess that's really the only consideration for me, right? If it's just that I see myself as in better shape than I actually am, then that's pretty useless, right? That's literally just a delusion.
Yeah, Exactly.
But if
In that case,
if they say having a perfect shape, I'm assuming that also means that while other people don't see that I've gotten shape, I have still gotten shape, right? I would be more physically fit. I would be presumably healthier, right? Like, in that case, I might actually take it, right? It doesn't matter if you see me as fit, right? As long as I am actually, like, fit and healthy, that actually would definitely be worth it.
yeah.
So that is literally the question, right? Like, if there are associated benefits, then I press it. Otherwise, there's no point.
Absolutely.
And I guess since we don't know which version it is, and there's no significant downside to the version where I wouldn't, I'll just press the button just to be safe. 34 would, 66 wouldn't. And again, this is so much up to interpretation that I have no idea, like, if the people are really disagreeing with me or if they just understand the question differently.
Yeah.
Let's scoot this up a little bit so I can read that. You will be able to teleport anywhere in the world instantly, be immune from injury from falling, and jump extremely high. One day a year you will experience debilitating pain that is so excruciating you won't be able to move, think, or sleep. You would rather die. Speaking of torture...
One whole day. Is it worth it?
I mean, I would say no, probably. It's one of those where...
If you would rather die, though,
yeah, if it's so painful that you'd rather die, I would argue that's probably...
Then you're going to die.
Yeah, right? It's that thing. I mean, I guess it probably helps to know that the pain is temporary. But still, right? This seems...
But, I mean, you would think, knowing that the pain is temporary, it still says you would rather die.
Yeah, right, that's the thing.
Than to go through this pain. Yeah.
Like,
so...
Especially the you would rather die part is the one where I'm also like, whoa, that's quite extreme. Right?
Yeah.
If it wasn't quite that extreme, I might consider this. Because teleportation is a really cool power. Immunity to fall damage and high jumps are, I guess, not bad. Probably less useful than the teleportation ability, but...
Huh. But how would you rather die if you weren't able to think?
I guess it's an instinctual thing, right? Like...
Yeah.
It's more like a feeling.
Maybe you would rather die with the anticipation leading up to it?
I mean, I don't think we have to overthink that part, but I would probably say I will not, even though I do like Miko teleportation power.
Yeah. Oh, I'd like it, but I would not.
This is a good one, right? Oftentimes you have the, like, oh, this is a purely positive thing, but there's like a limitation on it. And it's like, okay, obviously I'll press this. Or it's like, oh, there's actually two bad things. It's like, no, I don't want to do this, right? But like, this is actually one where, like, this is really cool, this is really shitty, and you actually have to weigh it.
Yeah.
You are the CEO at Facebook, okay, but you can't make a Facebook account.
I don't care. I'll take it.
Like,
there is no debating this.
A, I don't have a Facebook account. B, I have no desire to make a Facebook account. And C, do you know how much a CEO of a company like that makes?
Exactly. There is no debating. This thing has to be 100% push.
79% push.
Somebody likes Facebook that much?
Or they really don't want the responsibility of being the CEO of Facebook. They don't want to get invited to a congressional hearing on, like, another user privacy issue. I mean, we look at the comments as anyone...
The first thing I would do is dissolve the company. But then where you're making money, that's a dumb comment.
Yeah, sorry, what did you say? Which one was a dumb comment?
The very first one.
The first thing I would do is dissolve the company. Also, I don't think the CEO can do that.
Yeah, probably not. It's probably a board.
Yeah, because it's a publicly traded company, right? So, like, the CEO just runs the day-to-day business. You can't actually make decisions over the nature of the business.
Exactly.
I mean, also, the company's not called Facebook anymore, but that... I don't know where the question was written, so I'll forgive them that one.
Yeah.
I mean, it was probably written when Facebook accounts were also more relevant, when, like, young people actually still used Facebook, because I don't think the people that are using Will You Press the Button and the people that are using Facebook today have a large overlap.
No, not at all. I don't even use it anymore.
You never need to sleep again, but you have to drink human blood once a week or you'll die. So this
Doesn't
is
sound.
this is vampirism, but like turned way down, right? There's way fewer downsides and way fewer upsides.
This is cannibal vampirism.
I'm assuming my own blood is not going to suffice.
Oh, okay. I thought it was saying you have to drink your own blood. So it has to be someone else.
I mean, I don't know.
Does the person have to die?
I would assume not.
Because you could go to a blood bank and get your fill.
I mean, they always use it in vampire media as like the ethical way of getting blood, but also blood banks already have low blood supplies, so that's actually still not great. Although it depends a little bit on the blood type, but
still costing. You may be costing someone else their life anyway.
Yeah, it's just not as obvious.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the real question is if I can drink my own blood. This is kind of a moot point, right? Because like, why not? But like, how much blood do I have to drink?
Yeah, that's the question.
Because I'm pretty sure I could find someone who's willing to give me a little bit of their blood on a weekly basis.
Yeah, if it's like a few drops or something, or a small vial.
Yeah, but like, if it's like liters, then this becomes a problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
then you're going to have to rob the Red Cross.
I've always thought that the most appealing aspect of the vampire thing was more the immortality rather than the lack of need of sleep. But I mean, not needing to sleep effectively still increases the effective time you have in your life by 50%, right? So it's still not bad.
Yeah.
But I think this very largely depends on how much blood I need.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think I would take it on the surface, though.
Yeah, I don't think I would either, because also, this is one of those where, like, if for whatever reason you're incapable of getting your weekly blood, you just die, right? So that also adds another risk factor, where if you aren't properly prepared, or like you get in an accident or something and you're in a hospital, or maybe you're like in a coma or something, right? And then all of a sudden you just die after a week. I mean, I guess once you're in a coma, chance of you waking up are not great to begin with. But there's like all kinds of situations where you might not have the power to get yourself some blood.
Like severe alcoholics. They have to drink or they will die.
Yeah, exactly, right? But so this is a bit of a... this is 50-50. And again, this depends very largely on how you conceive of that second part functioning. Let's look at the comments real quickly. Okay. Can't drink my own. Yeah. Just drink 1 drop per week. Yeah, it's like... This really depends. Let's do this one and then one more. You are granted 3 wishes, but every wish you make will reduce your lifespan according to the type of wish that you make. The more complicated, the more lifespan it will take.
Read that second, the last option again, because they're kind of covered.
Oh, sorry. I can also do this, but
perfect. Yeah.
Every wish you make will reduce your lifespan according to the type of wish. The more complicated, the more lifespan it will take.
Wow, that is tough. But I'm guessing you can't wish for more lifespan.
I was thinking of like possible loopholes right away as well. But I think even without the loopholes, this is an easy press, right?
You think?
Worst case scenario, you never use the wishes.
Yeah, that's true. You could save it for like life and death situations.
That's always the question with how do you calculate lifespan, right? Like, is lifespan your like natural biological lifespan? Or is that like actually the time until you will die? Because if it's a life or death situation, then using the wish just means you die sooner.
Yeah, exactly. You don't know when you're going to die anyway. Yep, press the button.
Yeah, I think this is one of those where... also, it says complexity, interestingly enough, so you could probably just like wish for $100 billion or something. And that's not a very complex wish, right? So, and you're never gonna need money for the rest of your life again, so.
And then never use the other wishes.
$1 billion. I don't know. Like, okay, one more. Oh, that's what I'm missing. No trafficking rules apply to you. I'm assuming they mean traffic laws, not like human or drug trafficking. Yeah. But all vehicles you drive will act as if it was a horse. Gas is still required. What?
Wait. I don't understand that. A horse would not require gas, so
yeah, it is like a horse, except that gas is required.
So,
but like,
is it going to be a horse? A mechanical horse? Like, what's the deal?
Yeah, what does act as a horse mean, right? Like, is it as slow as a horse? I mean, not that horses are slow, but compared to cars, you know? Like, does it need food beyond the gas? I mean, if it's just the fact that it could possibly buck, then it's not really much of a problem because you can get that under control, right?
Mm-hmm.
But also the other thing is like, why would I want traffic laws to not apply to me? I mean, I guess not getting speeding tickets if you speed is a nice thing, but for the most part, traffic laws are there for a good reason, right?
Well, the horse can't speed.
Yeah, I mean, like, I've gotten, I think, 2 speeding tickets and 1 parking ticket once, although that latter one was not my fault. And I don't even know if parking violations would be considered traffic rules. And so, yeah, I have gotten speeding tickets before, and I can see why not getting those would be a benefit. But it's a fairly mild benefit. And other things like, what, you're gonna run red lights? Like, that's just dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Right? So it's like,
it doesn't.
What besides some mild speeding do you want to do that breaks traffic rules without endangering you? And I mean, even speeding technically doesn't endanger you, but oh god. So there's a street, right? Near my university. So if I wanted to go to a certain campus, I would always have to drive through that street. And the street is a 50, and there's like one segment in the middle of the street that without any obvious reason is 30.
Oh, yeah. And
you bet you they got me there once.
Oh, yeah. That's the reason. It's a speed trap.
It's like, god damn it. Like, there's no actual, like, traffic reason why there should be a 30 here. Like, you're just doing this to fuck with people.
Yeah, it's a revenue maker. Yeah.
I mean, they don't
a lot of towns.
They don't even have a fixed speed cam there, right? That's the thing. They don't have a fixed camera there. They must have had a car there. Because I'm pretty sure I don't know if this is the kind of thing that I should admit to, but I'm pretty sure I've gone over the limit there more than once. And I only got a ticket once, so, you know. I also stopped going over the limit there once I got the ticket, because I was scared that was going to happen again. And so, yeah, I mean, you know, it happens. The other one was, I think there was actually a standing one too. That was stupid on my part, but, where it was like right into town, right? And so as soon as you enter town limits, you have a speed limit of 50. And so before then, you had a higher speed limit, and also it's going downhill. So you have to like actively brake, and if you take your foot off the brake, you're immediately too fast again. And I got there once as well, but like that was still my fault, because I knew there was like a traffic camera there, like that they were like they were checking there, but I just like in the moment, the car just was rolling down the hill, and I got there as well.
But
yeah, no, it's like I get why like I wasn't exactly being a danger to myself or other traffic people necessarily in either of those situations. So I get why traffic rules aren't like 100% always good when they apply to you, but again, most of the time, like red lights and whatnot, you would still want to adhere to for your own safety, if nothing else.
Yeah, absolutely, and the safety of others. Yeah, that's pointless. There's no reason to push that.
Yeah. So having pushed that button in the past would have saved me a whole $40. 60 if we count parking violations. So I don't think that was necessarily worth it. Which I guess I could have gone straight to the songs of the week, but anyways, that takes us to the let me switch over probably something. to the songs of the week. What is your song of the week?
Is by Primus, and it's called Blue Collar Tweakers.
Seen 'em out at Suckle, they're pounding 16-penny nails. Truckers on the interstate have been known to ride the rails. Sweat is beating on the brow, and keep these fellows down, cause these damn blue-collar tweakers, they're running this here town.
Yeah, not really
don't
my
like
thing, but
Yeah, nothing is.
I mean, the instrumentals are fine. The vocal style of this guy is not really my cup of tea.
Yeah, it's very, very unique and niche. He's Primus is from Northern California, and it's really weird that in Northern California there's huge pockets of communities where they have Southern accents, which it really doesn't make sense until you look into the past. And during like the Dust Bowl, a lot of Texas and Oklahoma people ended up moving out to California. So they still keep that Southern accent to this day.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, though, when you say that, but because, I mean, obviously the Dust Bowl would have most affected farmers, and California has a lot of farming as well, so it kind of makes sense that you would go to California. Yeah. It's by the coast, it wouldn't have been as affected. Yeah, no, that... It's one of those things, right, where, like, it seems weird at first, and as soon as you know the reason, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I remember hearing when I was really young, there was a rap group from Humboldt County called the Cottonmouth Kings. And it just really confused me that these California rappers have this really deep Southern accent. And I'm like, why is this? So then Primus, I heard them, they do it, and several other artists from that area. So I looked it up, and it makes sense.
Yeah,
but yeah, a great song. Primus, Les Claypool, probably one of the greatest bass players of all time. This very funk-inspired metal, hard rock, but basically funk at their core.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of cool. I mean, again, it's mostly down to the vocals, to the vocal style there for me. I'm not that big a fan of it. And yes, it turns out I'm actually much pickier about music than I thought, as we've seen by me. Yeah. I mean, I have liked some of your songs of the week in the past. You actually tend to have a pretty decent music taste. It's definitely just broader than mine.
Yeah.
Speaking of, given that you have a broader music taste than me, and we do have some overlap, you might like my song of the week, which is "Because the Night" by the Patti Smith Group. And this is the button.
Have you been on a pop kick lately? Mostly 80s, huh?
I mean, I generally like a lot of like older rock and pop music, and so that is, I think that I don't think it's like a particular thing. Actually, don't you know? I mean, the thing is also it's hard to judge this based off specifically songs that we have in weeks that you are on, because obviously, I also have 3 other songs a week in between usually.
Yeah.
I guess I have had a lot of old-ish songs, sort of like, a lot of like 80s, 70s maybe, pop and rock, but
yeah,
I guess maybe a little bit.
The crazy thing about Patti Smith is a lot like Blondie and several other groups of that era. They didn't start out as pop artists. They started out as punk artists. Punk was huge in the Northeast around that time. And of course it spread throughout the country. But a lot of those artists, they got bigger, and the more fan base they accumulated, they ended up making a lot of pop albums after that and becoming even bigger artists.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. That's the kind of thing that always happens when the original fans usually will be like, oh god, they sold out, they make terrible music now.
Mhm.
But it
Yep.
has more broad appeal, so you'll just have more fans in total if you go to pop usually.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you can look through that New York punk scene and find so many artists. You're like, oh, that's a punk band? Thought they were a pop band. So many of them.
Yeah, I am definitely familiar with that phenomenon that happens sometimes.
Mhm.
And usually you only hear of them once they go to pop, and as you said, right, you think of them as
Yeah.
pop artists more so than... I remember it happened not that long ago with a German band called Unheilig, who were more like a emo kind of like a goth, somewhere like that kind of band, more in that direction, and they also switched over to doing more pop music, and again, right, like their existing fans weren't very happy about it, but suddenly they had charting hits, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's happening now with Ghost. Originally gothic metal and satanic inspired, but most of their songs these days are very poppy.
Yeah, I'm not that familiar with the history in total, but I feel like they've always sort of been in that intersection of pop and metal, sort of,
Mhm.
where they're sort of trying to make like a
Yeah,
more popular
yeah.
metal type stuff. That's always how I've seen them. Although I know there's also a bit of
Well,
variance in some of their stuff.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
I don't really have
they're-
a timeline in my head, so that's tricky as well.
yeah. But, I think they started off in their very early days as way more hardcore than they are now.
Yeah, I mean,
A lot of artists do that when you're young. You're like, oh, I want to make this rebellious, super hardcore music. And then the older you get, you're like, oh, I really like the pop stuff too.
I mean
So you start incorporating.
that definitely is a bit of a thing, but also just in general, right? If you want to make your living as a musician, I feel like pivoting towards more popular genres just makes natural sense, right? It's going to be very hard
Yeah.
to try to make a living in a niche. I mean, maybe you can like live off of it, but you're not gonna like really bring in the money.
Mhm.
And so
Absolutely.
if you want to do it as like your main thing and you just want to be successful, then it makes sense to pivot. It's also one of those things that
Mhm.
probably comes a bit with age, right? Like, once you start having kids, you're like, ooh, shit, this whole rock band thing is not really making enough money after all.
Yeah. And the older you get, the less you care about what the constituency is going to say anyway.
Yeah,
They're like, yeah, they're going to say I sold out, but who cares? I'll have the money.
exactly. It's like, yes, sure, right? Maybe I sold out, but also, hey, I sold out. There's a lot of money in that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, also, I feel like that is becoming a bit less of a thing. Like, people saying, like, someone sold out. Like, I feel like people are finally, at least, you hear it more on the internet, but people are finally picking up on the fact that, turns out, artists want to make money to live off of their art. I mean,
Yep.
that used to be a thing for YouTubers as well, right? Like, you'd have, like, a sponsor or something, and everyone would be like, oh my god, you sold out, and, like, these days it's just expected. Because, like, who's gonna keep making art for you, right? Like, whether it's music or whether it's YouTube videos or whatever, if they're not getting anything out of it. I mean,
Yeah.
okay, bad
Exactly.
example, but, you know, in general, right? Like, the more polished channels, like the bigger ones, like, they are gonna want to see something for their work, so it makes sense.
Oh, yeah. They start complaining like, oh, you had 5 minutes of ad in this video. I'm like, yeah, but it's a half-hour video. I'm like, who cares if it's 5 minutes?
Yeah. And also you can skip it, right? It's not like a YouTube ad where you can't skip it.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
just skip through it. It's gonna take like 5 seconds to get through it. It's fine.
Yeah.
Maybe they even have a video
Crazy
chapter
what
so you can
people-
just press like Control right arrow key and you're just like past it.
Yeah.
Anyways.
I'm sure the advertiser doesn't care for skipping through it, but
I mean, I'm
I don't
assuming that they probably calculate that like, a certain percentage of people is going to see this, a certain subset of those is going to want to go there. And then obviously,
yeah.
they're not just always flat rates. They oftentimes have like maybe like a base rate, but then a lot of it comes from either the amount of views that the video gets or even the amount of clicks that like the link gets, right? Like they have a special link or a promo code, and they'll based on that they'll determine how much they pay you. And even if they don't do that, they might still, like, once they've worked with someone, use that as a metric to determine how much they're going to pay them the next time.
Mm-hmm.
So like,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah. But anyways, I think we're done. I think that brings this episode of Trash Talk Podcast to a close. If you like what you see, then subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. No, wait, give a like, that's one. And if you want to see more like this, then subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you want to see more Smokey, then I have some links in the description. And if you have something to say, leave a comment or join the Discord server. Link is also in the description below. Smokey.
That's it.
That's it.